Speaker.
Call you Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Mr. Speaker, this is not really the mixed ownership model bill. This is the How National made quizzing look like a patriot bill. This is the How National made Benedict Arnold look like a loyalist bill. Not only is the whole concept of selling our power stations deeply flawed, the process of sale has been designed to gain the maximum benefit for the share traders and the minimum benefit for the taxpayers. What you just heard was a valedictory speech, and I can say now with certainty that the Maori Party and its 3 members will be resigning from this Parliament long before the next election. I do not see Peter Dunn surviving either, because he campaigned on water being a strategic asset, and that's the critical component of these sales, and he's walked out on his pre-election commitments. This government has not got a majority for that reason, and they know it full well. The taxpayers are the rightful owners and should be the beneficiaries of any sale, but this won't happen. This is a process arranged by the greedy, for the greedy, just like this is a government of the greedy, by the greedy, and for the greedy. There are some vital facts that they are not talking about. Fortunately, we are back here in time to reveal them. The first is that the share brokers and financiers, Aussie banks, merchant bankers, and the so-called markets are going to take $200 million in fees, commissions, underwriting guarantees, and other expenses. 200 million going to these people. 200 million of taxpayers' money is going straight to the middlemen. So what happened to cutting out the middlemen? In this case, you've got a government made up of middlemen, and they look after their mates. Why did the National Party receive millions and millions of dollars in election campaign funds? And the answer is simple. It was a sound investment by the middlemen, the ones I've just described, who are going to get 200 million for a start in all these fees and commissions, whilst they give the government, these Aussie advisors, independent advice. You like that? They're going to get all this money for giving this advice, and can you imagine them saying this is a bad idea? It's bad economics? The fiscals don't add up? No, sir. It was a sound investment by these middlemen because they knew hundreds of millions would be returned to them from ordinary New Zealanders via a National Party sellout. And they didn't have to wait long, did they? No. Election just over? Next year or next minute? Here come the middlemen. The National Party's fundraising experts. And it doesn't stop there. The Prime Minister has finally let slip that mums and dads won't be at the front of the queue unless they are mum and dad brokers and mum and dad foreign buyers. The smiley face, Mr. Spray and walk away. He got away with it all for about over 3 years. Say any old statement you like. Typical Merrill Lynch. Get the deal done, doesn't matter what happens, and the devil take the hindmost. And here we are, just like the American taxpayers who had to bail out Merrill Lynch for practices we all know about, and now the Prime Minister of this country is exposing New Zealanders to the same behaviour. That smiley-faced mask of this government has all of a sudden gone lopsided, and it's not a pretty sight. And if you look at how the Maori Party has betrayed their people over this, it's not a pretty sight either. Did you hear that speech? Is it one of principle? Belief? No. Mr. Sharples and Tariana Turia know, as is Tuarua Flavel, that they have sold their people down the drain. But he gave us a lecture about it. He talked about the principality and sovereignty of land and the taonga of ownership. And that would require, I'm sure, to do what we did back in 1998 when we gave up the second most powerful job in this country because National wanted to sell to a foreign owner called Contact, the company called Contact Energy. Anybody the National Party gets up and has a guy like Mr. Coleman today, Mr. Coleman, that's my bona fides. I would not do it. So don't get up here and tell the country a whole lot of hypocritical nonsense and drivel. That's the fact. You know, if you look at how the Maori Party's betrayed their people, it's not a pretty sight. It's legally impossible to interpret this legislation. No court in the world will accept company articles that state 51% of the shareholders are subject to the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi. 51% are subject to the principles, the other 49% are not. Now that's a legal nullity. And there's the genius, the Attorney General, Mr. Finlayson, not a word to say. Does he think this is an elegant solution? Does he think that is actually an elegant solution? Nobody knows what these principles are in the first place, and for the Maori Party to claim some sort of victory over them, over this, makes me wonder how they can ever claim that they represent Maori in any way. There they are, standing by their so-called principles, whatever they may be, pleading for crumbs from the table of the National Party. Look, it's no joy for Maoridom to see them at the table having their heads rubbed, taken to the cleaners, just because they want to keep the LTDs and the ministerial homes. Now, we know what those baubles are, but we know what it's like to walk out on those baubles on matters of principle. Don't sit over there. No, don't sit over there. I know what it's like. No, I know what it's like. Don't come along here and try and mislead New Zealanders, because when we see something as rotten, we do walk. And we've done it countless times. We do not go along with this sort of quisling Benedict Arnold behaviour. How can they ever go back to the marae and say to the people, we really fought for you over this one? We got you some principles. 51% of them. 51. Yeah, we got you some principles, 51% of them. Now, another deep flaw in this legislation, and that is this. There is nothing to stop these new companies, post the sale, issuing new non-voting shares. And any issue of any non-voting shares will dilute the Crown's equity in the companies and reduce its influence in the appointment of directors. And we know companies are run by directors, not shareholders. The directors on the boards of these companies have wide-ranging powers. They will not be acting in the interests of mum and dads who have to pay escalating power bills, and the Maori voter is the worst one to be punished by rising prices. So what are they doing? Are they walking over there to say, Mr. Key, we're finished with you because you're selling out our country? No. They're staying. Now, I always knew Peter Dunn would. You know. Peter Dunn is a classic example. He'll double-cross that bridge when he comes to it. He's a classic example of the old adage. I'll double-cross that bridge when I come to it. But surely the Maori Party could set an example. They should set an example. Whatever way you look at it, the people are the real losers. And the power stations will end up not in our hands, but in foreign control. And the slide down the OECD of our economy will just go on and on. All the great lessons of Singapore, Norway and what have you, totally lost on the people who call themselves the National Party, when we all know they're the International Party.
That's right.
Give up the name, for goodness sake, so we can all recognise you for what you are. Look, the power companies in this country are already operating a price-fixing cartel, aided and abetted by the Commerce Commission. When were the prices regulated? It'll get worse. There are many long, cold winters ahead, and we urge New Zealanders, don't just go out and sign the petition, but please do that. Get out and do it now in the next 2 months. Make sure you take everybody along, mum, granddad, the whole lot. Sign the petition. But here's what you've got to do. Get your pen out and your laptop and your phone, and you start ringing every National Party backbencher, especially the marginal seats. Don't rest up. Call the whole lot up. Keep it going. You see, you've got the power, and tell them the power is not for sale. You've got the power, tell them your power is not for sale. Don't stay at home and bring up the talkback shows only. Get out there, go down to their clinics on Monday when they do hold one. For those who do visit their electorate now and again, I know Mr. Key won't be holding one in Helensville. There won't be one in Dipton, I know. But pay for the extra stamp, write letters, and give them to know that if they go ahead with this sort of treason, you intend to get rid of them, and as soon as possible.
Call the Honourable John Banks.
Mr. Speaker, this debate
today is the inevitable consequence of living well